Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew, and I am an armchair Bitcoiner. What I mean by that is that I am just going to take a topic and sit here in my chair with armrests on it and talk about Bitcoin. Why am I doing this? Because Bitcoin Twitter and all the other YouTubers on YouTube and all the other places and sources that I get my information from are great resources. And I think it's part, if you're part of this community, it's part of your duty to help, spread the word and help get other people interested and inform others and educate others about the space and really what all of this is about. So if I can, reach a handful of people, then to buy Bitcoin, to sell their other altcoins, then maybe I've done a little bit of service to everybody that does that. So that's who I am, and that's why I'm doing this. My background is in construction project management, so I really I look at this from a management type of perspective, I guess, and I'm also, I guess you could say, an early adopter. I really like looking at new things very early before the rest of the general public gets to it. So that's part of the reason why I was interested in Bitcoin. My dad had sent me a video a very long time ago about the Fed. It was some cartoon video that's about an hour long. Had this little guy bouncing around talking about the Fed and how it just prints money out of thin air. And I had never really thought about it up until that point. But that really got me interested into figuring out, well, if the inflation rate, this was probably 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. If the inflation rate back then was supposed to be, 2 to 3%, then that means that I have to at least make that much to just stand still, right? And then you have to make even more if you want to try and get ahead. So then I started looking at the interest that my bank account gave me on, X number of dollars that you had in there. And you need $2 million, I believe it was, to get their maximum interest rate on a basic savings account. And it was like 0.2% or something like that. It was ridiculous. And at 0.2%, what, you get like $10,000 a year or something like that? It's not even worth it for anyone with $2 million to put their money in a bank savings account like that. So I knew that wasn't an option. So I immediately got into penny stock trading and started speculating on that. And I actually did decently okay at that until I didn't. I run, it's fine until like the ship all, hits an iceberg and sinks, 5 minutes later. So I got out of penny stock trading, but I still knew that I had to have other investments and, to be able to, expand and, retire, have some sort of income and savings. So that ultimately led me to, silver and gold, with Mike Maloney and Peter Schiff. And yes, we'll get to Peter Schiff, in a minute, or maybe in other videos. This probably isn't the time, but Mike Maloney and Peter Schiff, they both, advocated for hard money, specifically silver. And they talked about the Hunt brothers and, the historical highs and lows of the silver price and, the expansionary, nature of silver, how much is produced every single year in relation into gold, and how much is actually consumed, in industry, thereby leaving less silver above ground, usable silver, investable silver above ground than gold, yet gold is hoarded in vaults by banks, and therefore is somehow deemed worthy of monetary value, even though there's actually less silver above ground and it's more scarce, but the rate at which silver is brought above ground is significantly higher than gold. So if you started to accumulate silver, then you would ultimately end up with more silver than gold usable above ground, investable. But that's another video for another time. But that's what really got me into hard money. And so a few years of just buying silver, I eventually came back to Bitcoin. I first heard about Bitcoin in I want to say it was probably 2013. No, it was way earlier than that. Maybe, probably 2009, 2000. No, That doesn't make any sense. 2011 or 12. It was very early on because I met a guy who was in the army at a party, and he was talking about that he was using Bitcoins in the Silk Road and everything like that. So it was whenever the Silk Road thing, just before it had collapsed, he was talking about it, and that's when I had first heard about it. Was at this party, talking to this guy, and I mainly dismissed it because I just didn't. I thought it could potentially be a scam. I didn't understand it. I didn't put any thought into it at the time whatsoever. But I, years later came back to it with further education and research into what Bitcoin was. And even still then, I'm like, I still don't know anything. And I've read several books, and, thinking back then when I hadn't read anything doing the research, it's just funny, like what you think at the time that you start investing into something, and then you get in and then you realize you don't know anything about it. But I like to jump before, leap before I look, I guess. So I bought Bitcoin for the first time in 2016, 17, it was late or mid 2017 or late 2016, somewhere around there. I got burned by BitConnect, so that kind of tells you like the time range of my early investments. I'll get to what's going on the screen here in a second, but I'm just kind of going over as an introductory video, like how I came across Bitcoin. And so that's mainly my story. Is a few years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago now, I first got into Bitcoin, and I was literally working at a liquor store on my phone, trying to figure out how I could buy Bitcoin via, I think it was Kraken at the time, and Coinbase, because they were both crappy websites, and one would crash and I would try and switch over to the other. And, this is while the price, was slowly going up. It was like around $1,000 or less than $1,000 when I was first buying. And I had no money at the time, because I worked at a liquor store and also, at a dispensary. But I had no money. I was working 2 jobs, and I had a girlfriend who liked to go out to eat and, expensive dinners and such, but, trying to, save that for another time. So, I took a lot of my savings and put it into Bitcoin, which is basically nothing at the time. And, just slowly accumulated for a little bit, and then took a break for a long time, ran into some financial trouble, switched jobs a couple of times, and then eventually got back into construction, which is where I'm able to, stack sats more greatly than I was. I don't have to work 2 jobs anymore. Girlfriend's not around, so I have some expendable income. So, I'm able to invest more into Bitcoin. And so that's just basically how I came into Bitcoin. But, so that being my background, what I am, and like I said just a minute ago, or several minutes ago, is that I'm doing this so that I can at least try and help somebody out there that is interested in Bitcoin, wants to know more about it, has a similar background that I do, would like, just likes my perspective on things, to the Bitcoin community. So, even if, no one watches these, even if one person watches these videos, that's all that I could ask. And I hope that I help that person. So without further ado, so the article on the screen is kind of one of the reasons why I'm going to start doing this, is because I mean, it's a small country that, very few people have ever heard of, but the Central African Republic has become the second country to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender after El Salvador. This is 36 weeks, less than a year, 36 weeks after El Salvador has adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender. And the price has not budged whatsoever. So I'll be using this chart pretty frequently. And I have not changed any of these lines. This one here is very recent, obviously, but I've not changed any of these lines in months. And, the vertical ones are mainly indicating of, what I determine to be significant events in the world, economy or related to Bitcoin that might affect Bitcoin in some way. And so that's just what those are. And then these, lateral lines are, you can kind of see trends where Bitcoin price bounces off these lines. And then here's, a couple of support lines, and basically just kind of showing where, what Bitcoin is trapped in, where the current range of trading is in. This is not technical analysis by any means. And then in the background, you have the 401 day moving average closed, and then you have the 650 day moving average, and also the 100 week moving average. So the blue one, the red one, and the green one in that order. The red one actually goes to this red line right here. So that's kind of interesting, is that this support line is the 100 week moving average. But, it's kind of trading in this little range right here. So that's just, and what I mean to say is that this news did not affect the Bitcoin price whatsoever, right? And none of these events really have. I would only say that possibly the futures ETF affected the price, because as someone who has been in the silver market that has futures ETFs that are highly manipulated, the argument of manipulation is up for discussion, because in an efficiently free market, is there really such thing as manipulation? If someone's allowed to do something, if they're able to do something, then that ultimately means that it's just the freedom that they're able to do that with means that there is a free market somewhat. Not even if not all competitors in the market are able to do said thing. So it just depends on your perspective. But after the futures ETF, it looks like it spiked up, came down a little bit, spiked up again, and then the shorting really has begun. I am not a financial expert or trader, or I do not take this for financial advice whatsoever, but I feel like, and I don't know for certain, that there's probably a decent amount of open short interest in this range right here that has suppressed the price. And then, anytime that Bitcoin, there's probably some shorting that goes on in these downsloped areas right here. So you would probably have to look at exchanges like FTX, or I don't know what Coinbase shows, or what Glassnode, or I think Clearnode is another one, show in terms of, what people are doing as options traders, as futures traders, in terms of the Bitcoin price, how much open interest there is, exactly like what people are doing with their money in the crypto market, because even as much as I hate to say it, Bitcoin is and has been correlated with the S&P for quite many months now, and that also with the advent of things like wrapped Bitcoin and wrapped Ether that are somewhat linked with each other, thereby saying that Ethereum is somewhat linked to Bitcoin. But I think Bitcoin is definitely the dog that wags the tail. So we'll see how exactly Ethereum shakes out. I don't hold any Ethereum whatsoever. Especially I used to, but especially after their constant rebranding of Ethereum 2.0 and it being delayed constantly, it's never going to happen. And even if it does, it's going to be a piece of crap. So with all these rambling ons, that I've been going on here for, nearly 15 minutes, I just want to say that anybody who's going to listen to these videos, yes, clearly I ramble on a little bit, but my goal is to get you familiar with Bitcoin, comfortable with Bitcoin, understand that Bitcoin itself is the number one financial network asset that you need to own. Nothing else is money. Everything else is a platform for applications, or dApps, or decentralized applications, or decentralized exchanges, or anything like that. They're all trying to do something different, and they really don't have much direction. Bitcoin is slow, and it has a direction that it's trying to go, and it's making its progress, there quite rapidly if you look at it over the course of a period of a long time. But we'll talk again in other videos. So if you subscribe, hearing me ramble, then please see you in the next one.